And we are live. Thanks so much for joining us. It's really a pleasure to have you here. I am Lulu Freistat, and I am the Executive Director of Smart Elections. And we have with us Benny Smith, who is a technical advisor with Smart Elections. Benny, say hello.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.
Super. So we have some really interesting work to get to today. We're going to be sharing more of the research that we've done with our Count the Vote project. That's the hashtag Count the Vote. And the website for that is countthevote.info. And we're also going to be talking about what comes next. Like, we had this incredibly contentious election, and how do we move forward? How do we really come together and create elections that everybody can have confidence in? So I think that's the main thing that we're going to be talking about today. And then especially what needs to take place in order for that to happen. Like, in order for us to have confidence in elections, there have to be quite a few changes. And those changes involve legislation, and they also involve better practices, best practices by election officials. Benny is an election commissioner in Shelby County, Tennessee. Do you want to tell us a little bit about kind of what that was like, Benny, going from being somebody who was really concerned about elections to somebody who actually is part of the election process now?
Yeah, it was a small transition because I was so interested in elections. However, it's a tall order to be an election official who understands how elections work before getting on the commission. You still are inundated with laws and procedures, and understanding that it is it's not as complex of an operation that it should be, but based on the way government has been running and the way elections have been running, it's definitely a nut to crack. So I've been humbled for the first year of learning all of the procedures, but I got my feet now, and it's still kind of uphill because then you get into the politics.
Right. And one of the things that we're going to get into today, part of that politics is, unfortunately, what voting machines you actually wind up using. And I know the county that you've been in, Shelby County, has had really a lot of controversy about those voting machines. So I want to hear from you, what that's been like and how that's resolved. Benny and the people that he put together, the team there, has really had a pretty big victory in keeping out what many security experts say are very, very bad machines, the ballot marking devices and touchscreen machines. And that's something that many, many communities have not been able to do. So we really want to learn from you and what you've been able to do there in Shelby County. It's really remarkable. And then we'll also take questions. I hope that we'll have some time for questions. And we have one of our volunteers here keeping an eye out for questions and putting those into the chat for us. So please do put your questions for Benny and for me into the comments. We have something from Ruth. She says, go ahead, and I think we can put this up. So the work is never done. It looks like we have to be focused, among other things, but can't start too early on some mechanism to keep states from going back to using their 12th Amendment rights. Maybe you should talk to us more about what you mean by that, Ruth. I'd love to hear more about what your specific concerns are on that. So what I want to do to start off with, the election has been like so incredibly contentious. And I think instead of focusing on what a challenge it's been, I think many, many people have been really, really stressed out. I want to focus on what an opportunity it is for people from different political backgrounds to work together and to bring our elections into a better place. So I want to show a video that I produced that is an investigation of the Dominion voting machines, machines that there's been a lot of criticism about this election, and for good reason. Those machines are very, very problematic. And so we're going to go ahead and play this video, and then we'll talk about where we can go from here, knowing that we have problems with our voting machines. How do we work to improve those? How do we work to improve the landscape, working with people who we may we may have disagreements with them politically, but we have to work cooperatively in order to get to a place where our elections are secure and accurate. So let me go ahead and share this video. This is part of a series that I produced, and we played the first part previously on our election forums, and this is part 2 that talks about this county in New York, Westchester County, where they fought tooth and nail to try to keep these Dominion voting machines out of the county. And this is, as I said, this is part 2. And just give me one sec. I have to make sure that we have audio here. So I'm actually going to put us back on for a minute and put the audio on. There's the audio, and you'll all put into the comments and let me know if you have trouble hearing the audio.
This ImageCast Evolution voting machine has the physical ability to mark votes onto the ballot after the last time the voter sees the ballot, and that's a disaster.
Residents in Westchester County, New York, were recently surprised to find out that their county was about to purchase these machines.
I've lived in Westchester County for almost 30 years. I'm involved with several groups. We've been involved with elections. I only heard about this in the last few days.
I'm from Citizens for Voting Integrity, New York. None of us were notified. We're very concerned. We've heard reports questioning whether there's a design flaw, a serious design flaw. So we're here hoping that they don't buy these machines.
It doesn't produce a reputable paper trail, and therefore, if there was ever an audit or a recount, it wouldn't be reliable.
It's just so dismaying. I feel like at every level, our elections are under attack.
And they are concerned that the county, which is in debt, cannot afford the $6 million price tag.
The county has a budget deficit, and we can ill afford to waste a penny.
Catherine Parker, one of the Westchester County legislators who will have to decide whether or not to vote for the purchase of the machines, is worried about their security.
I think that it's possible that somewhere in this country, at some point in time, somebody was elected that didn't really have the votes cast.
But Parker is a legislator, and the legislators are being asked by their election commissioners to buy the ice machines. Democratic Election Commissioner Reginald Lafayette was not interested in investigating the issue further.
We have the luxury of saying to you, the machine is safe, can't tap into this machine, and like the problem you just brought up is not a problem.
And in an article with the local journal News, fellow election commissioner Douglas Colty called the machines virtually unhackable because, he said, the voting machines in New York State have no access to the internet whatsoever.
This is a common myth among election officials.
Rich DeMillo is a professor of computing and former dean at the Georgia Institute of Technology.
There are many attacks on computer systems that have nothing to do with being connected to the internet.
The machine has a USB port, which is a known attack vector.
USB drives, these thumb drives that go from machine to machine, are in fact information pathways to carry malware from one machine to the other.
Dominion released a statement saying in part, there is no way for the ballot marking device to make additional marks on the ballot.
Dominion's statement worried me because it really conveyed a lack of understanding of what the problem was. Once you have the design flaw, it's nearly impossible to mitigate it. You would have to redesign the hardware.
DeMillo and DePel may be nationally recognized election security experts, but the commissioner who challenged their conclusions has something going for him that they do not. In addition to being the election commissioner, Lafayette is the chair of the Democratic Party. The same is true for his counterpart, the Westchester County Republican election commissioner, Douglas Colty, who is the chair of the Republican Party in that county. Any legislator who voted against the wishes of these two men could risk losing party support in their next election. It's a situation that has raised questions previously. In 2015, Blair Horner, the legislative director of the Watchdog New York Public Interest Research Group, said, "It's shocking. What you're talking about is sort of the party control of elections on steroids." I'm here at the Westchester Independent Living Center, a resource for people with disabilities. So the Dominion ICE voting machine has a design flaw so serious that election security experts said you cannot be confident in the results of an election held on this machine. But it was being moved forward here in Westchester County by the Board of Elections as a machine that the disabled community was supporting.
Remember why these machines are there. It's for the handicapped community.
Well, it turns out the disability community doesn't like this machine either.
We did not support the machine. We were not given an opportunity to test the machine. So that's what I want to talk about, okay?
I don't know who those individuals are that are supporting that machine, because it certainly has not been our organization, and we are a well-established disability organization in this county for 38 years.
Those few people that were allowed to test it did not give it a thumbs up. It did not test well.
At the fundamental core of it, it's a design problem. If what's being described is accurate, the Dominion ICE will create much longer lines.
Westchester Independent Living Center is not alone in its opposition to the ICE machine. 5 separate New York disability advocacy groups have come out against it, including Disabled on the Move, which said in an email, "We are not advocating for its purchase in Westchester."
I'm absolutely stunned. That was not what we heard.
Election commissioners indicated that the new ICE voting machine was necessary to meet the demands of early voting.
This machine will, we feel, would accommodate and operate a lot faster, particularly with this early voting.
There's a way that they could implement early voting using their existing voting machines.
So the new machines are not needed for early voting. They do not satisfy the needs of the disabled community. They've been declared vulnerable to hacking by election security experts, and the projected cost is $6 million. That leaves residents wondering if someone other than the public is benefiting from this deal. In a statement, Joe Bravo, the executive director of Westchester Independent Living Center, said, "The whole idea of how these decisions are made is really a mystery and a question."
The process is very opaque. I wonder if they're too persuaded by the manufacturer, Dominion.
Election commissioners in Westchester County declined to be interviewed for this report. The New York Dominion sales rep did not respond to emails or calls.
So that is part of the
Awesome
investigation.
You were a fortune teller.
We knew that there were problems with the Dominion machines. Now, if we had paid attention ahead of this election cycle to what many people knew were problems with machines, then we might not have had such a difficult election cycle. And I did put that into the chat. You can watch both parts 1 and 2 of that investigation on our homepage at smartelections.us. So I'm sorry, we're going through more comments here than I expected. Let's see, this is Art Levine. He's a journalist. He actually interviewed me and in an article that he did. In context of nuanced critiques, likely swamped by emotional conspiracy theories that are sweeping through most of the nation's 70 million Trump voters, fueled by GOP leaders and social media. So yeah, we have a lot of other kind of emotional issues that are fueling the backlash against Dominion, but there are actually at its core problems with both Dominion and ES&S. And I want to just make that point. Like, Benny, do you want to talk about some of the problems with both of the systems?
Yeah, this, I think that the nuance is a lot more clear. For election integrity activists, we've been sounding the same bell. It's just now that there's a larger audience that knows about the bell we've been ringing. So is it really fueled by passion? Yes, it is. But at its core, what you have are people saying that we don't really know who won. And that's been the core argument that we've been making. With no matter which vendor you choose, there are vulnerabilities and features that exist within this machinery that does not give evidence or disclose evidence that can produce what we would consider an authenticatable result. And when you have a loser, new people come online And I made the joke, but I was, it's like fortune. Lulu's she's doing fortune telling at this point, because she's saying all of these vulnerabilities exist. You know, the guy is on record saying that they're not connected to the internet, and now you hear a lot of people saying that they are. And even if they weren't, you still have DeMillo, who is in Georgia where all of this is happening. These people, they were in their bailiwicks talking about these very serious problems, and they were talking about it when it was the SNS first. They just went with a different vendor, different pair of shoes, same ball game. So it's unfortunate that the winning crowd has to hear the same story that the losing crowd has been singing, and it's probably shameful that some of the people that are in the winner circle don't remember that they were singing the same tune.
I'm going to show an article here, and this is the New York Times. This is the New York Times just giving us an ad initially, but we really don't want to see the ad.
Not gonna happen.
Okay, here we go. This is an ES&S election that was very, very problematic. So they actually and people are just focused so much on Dominion right now, and people who may not follow election security closely may not know, but there are really two main vendors in the United States. There's four, but two of them, between them, have 80% of the market, and that's ES&S, which is Election Systems and Software, and Dominion Voting Systems. And so this particular race took place in Pennsylvania, in Northampton County, and this was, I believe, November of 2019. And this ES&S system, it miscounted more than 55,000 ballots across 100 precincts. Huge discrepancy, which was actually so obvious that it was discovered, and the votes had to be counted by hand. And so that's something we haven't heard much about at all during this election cycle, because all of the focus has been on Dominion. But there are equally concerning issues with the ES&S systems, and actually to some extent with the other systems as well. The problem is not really which machine you're looking at. The problem is that we are relying so much on voting machines. And Benny, you're a programmer, so tell us what happens when you rely on machines that can be programmed to tell you the votes.
Right. So I would even argue that most of the concern has actually been on ES&S. They have the largest share of the market share. They're getting a real serious pass right now because all of the swing states, if they had majority machines in the swing states, then we wouldn't be talking about Dominion, we'd be talking about ES&S. But at the core, to your point, they are computers, and you can program computers only do what they're told. And if you program a computer to do something bad, it doesn't know that it's bad or good. It just knows that it's told to do that. And that's why this part of elections should really be more Luddite, where and I'm a tech guy. I'm really a Luddite when it comes to this part of technology, because repeatable tasks lend themselves to automation. And that's what computers are tasked to do. And in this case, the computer's task is to count, and they don't even do that well completely. So it's probably time to look at this with a real serious focus of what's more important. Do we want an authenticatable input or a fast output?
Right. And when you say authenticatable input, there's some pretty fancy language, but what that means basically is, do we want a transparent process? Do we want to be able to have confidence that anybody, whether they have computer programming skills or not, can understand, and have confidence that the elections have been counted accurately?
Yeah, I would even go even further. I don't want confidence. I write code. I want evidence. So we should be able to, in the case of Northampton County, in the case of Michigan, in this current election that just passed, we should be able to remove the computer completely from the process and still reach an outcome. So if you have a hand-marked paper ballot, you don't rely on the computer for the voter to make their choice, right? The hand and eye coordination, right? That's all you need for voter intent. There's nothing in between. And if something goes wrong with the computer, if a rock hit a satellite, right? Like it's the younger generation, a rock hit a satellite, they don't know how to go home, right? But if something happens to the computer, we don't have to depend on it like we depend on tech, like GPS, right? We are too dependent on tech, and if there's any disruption in that, we don't have a way back to what actually happened, and that's what makes it so important for a input to be something that can be tabulated, counted without the aid of computers.
Right. And so what we're talking about there at that point is first off, hand marked paper ballots.
Yeah,
and so I want to get to a little bit of some of the actions that I want us to take during this call. So there's actually what we're really needing to do now is moving from so much focus on the election itself and talk about what are the issues around the elections, like legislation. And one of the key pieces of legislation that has already passed the House and has been waiting to get a day in, its day in court really at the Senate is HR1. And HR1 is kind of a huge, massive bill for election reform, but it definitely has one thing in it that election security advocates have been asking for quite a while, which is that it mandates that all voters have the opportunity to vote using hand-marked paper ballots. And so Smart Elections is part of a group of organizations that has come together and put together a petition. And I really would just like everybody right now to take the time to go ahead and just sign this petition while you're here on the call with us. It'll literally just take you 2 minutes. So this is the petition, and it's just to encourage the President-elect Joe Biden, when he gets into office, to make democracy one of his leading issues. And this whole campaign is put together by a coalition of about 170 different groups. The coalition is called Declaration for American Democracy. And this campaign is called Democracy Day One. And I'll just I'll give you, a banner that says that. This is something to keep your eye out for on social media. They've been doing tweet storms, and also this is something that you can talk to your representatives about. It's the Democracy Day One initiative. And so if you would, I just want to throw this link into the chat, into the comments for you, and go ahead and while we're all here, just sign that petition. That is to actually try to get the Senate to take up HR1 and get it passed as part of the first push in Biden's administration. And that at least would be closer to having a mandate that all voters have the option to use hand-marked paper ballots. So Julie Weiner's asking about HR 3351. I don't think they're working with HR 3351 anymore, Julie. That was a budget bill. That was it was a budget bill that was put forward last year. But right now, what most of the groups are working on is HR1. So I really encourage you to go ahead and sign that petition. And then what I also want to just have Benny talk to us a little bit about what happened in his county, in Shelby County, because I know there was a big push to adopt ballot marking devices. And we want to say that there are voters with disabilities who need ballot marking devices. It's really, really important that ballot marking devices are available and secure for voters with disabilities. But the idea that all of us have to vote on ballot marking devices is where we really can get into some trouble in terms of errors and hacking on machines. So I know in Shelby County, they were trying to buy those the touchscreen machines. The Express Vote is what they were thinking about buying, right, Benny?
Correct.
And so I know that you took a series of steps to try to encourage them to get hand-marked paper ballots. What were the first steps that you took when this issue came up in your county?
Well, it's a political division between the Election Commission, who is the governing body that was charged for picking the machines. I'm in a Democrat county, but it's a Republican majority. And the Republicans, they favor ballot marking devices, citing a lot of things that you hear that are just not very true. That they're not connected to the internet and they're so secure. And as a security professional in this space, I don't wear the badge as much as I probably should, but having a good understanding of elections. And I joined the Election Commission so that I could bring that voice to the commission.
So one of the things that I heard, because I attended by Zoom a couple of these meetings, and I heard a lot of misinformation presented by your election commissioner. Is Linda Phillips? Is that her name?
Yeah, she's our election administrator.
Election administrator.
But she's staff to the commission.
And she presented documentation that seemed to indicate that the ballot marking devices were cheaper, even though
oh my goodness,
there's so much evidence showing that they're 3 to 4 times more expensive. She presented all kinds of kind of just like random studies that didn't actually seem to have any origin. How did you combat that misinformation?
Yeah, I just spoke it. I tried to put it on the record. It really was more of just having the record that has been peppered with. She put some cartoon figures out there. She put a lot of cartoonish comments out there, and I just really just pushed back. I mean, she made one claim that said that 100% of all fraud was committed on paper ballots, but the White House has like 9 categories of fraud. How can you have 9 categories if it's all on paper, right? So it just doesn't, pass the smell test. She said it was going to cost like $22 million, and then COVID hit, and then we spent less than $1 million on 2 elections. so how's it going to cost $22 million in 10 years if the biggest election of the year, which is only going to happen twice, is under $1 million? So you just can't get there daydreaming with some of the numbers. Nonetheless, she was, rightfully so, she was arguing the point that she wanted and not factoring in that there would be a listening audience this time around. It usually happens with very few people showing up, no protests, no citizens, and really the commissioners who we have different jobs. Like it's barely what 10% of our time that we're spending on the commission. So we're not as informed. It just so happens that I'm in the space, and a lot of the elections, they cross into so many other different professions, and I work in process improvement. So I happen to eclipse in all of those professions that elections cross into. So process improvement, finance, budgeting, processes, just standard operating procedures, all of these things that are happening. And I'm literally able to ask a basic follow-up question that our administrator just was not prepared for.
So one of the things is that you actually had a tremendous amount of information on the subject. So you came very well informed.
Right. Very well informed.
Okay, but now we've seen instances where advocates have come very well informed and it actually hasn't made a difference. So for example, I wanted to make sure to let people know, I showed that video about Westchester County and how they fought so hard. They lost the battle in Westchester County, and Westchester County bought 400 Dominion ice machines just before this election. And it had to do with politics. It really had to do with the commissioners who wanted to buy those machines, really forcing the hand of the legislators in that community. So so in Shelby County, have you been able to keep them from buying the touchscreen machines there so far?
Yes and no. I lost 2. The difference was it is political. So I ended up getting the attention of a Democrat majority funding body. So the way my county is set up, our body doesn't write the check. We just oversee the elections, but our funding comes from a different body. And that is more like the makeup of Shelby County, which is a large Democrat area. So me advocating at my commission and during my governing body gets the guys writing the checks attention. And they're saying, wait a minute, we need to pay attention to how we're about to spend taxpayer dollars. And that Democrat majority, having gotten wind of that, we had this is not without you and Smart Elections and Professor Pell, who called. They cut him off. They were rude to him. They a renowned professor. He's all in Fox News right now, and all the other places. And in your video, they didn't even let him speak. They cut him in 3 minutes and just zip. They cut him.
So you brought your team. So you did a couple of things in terms of his county and trying to prevent them from buying making a bad decision. He got incredibly well informed. He's very well informed about this issue, but if you're not, you can get well informed.
Right.
We have a lot of information on our website at smartelections.us, for example, about voting equipment. And if you go to our homepage and just click on voting equipment, there's a lot of information there. And we are getting more and more information there all the time. So get yourself well informed. Then he figured out who was going to have to fund these machines. And so you went and you made that information available to the funders and let them know this was a bad decision. And then he went and reached out to all the people in his community that he knew, me, Professor Appel. I remember that Susan Pynchon from Florida Fair Elections Coalition spoke. Yeah, he got all of the informed advocates that he could to pack that meeting, and we all spoke one after another to try to dispel the misinformation that was there. Yeah. And I think that did you feel like that had an effect?
Absolutely. Jenny Cohn was writing about it. You were there. You were calling in. We had DeMillo, Kevin Skoglund. We had a lot of people that were willing to share their expertise or lend their credibility to the argument. And what our local commissioner saw was that there was so much interest in Shelby County. And why would some outsiders basically have so much interest unless it was about the integrity of elections, period? It was the subject matter. And you made the point perfectly. Citizens, this stuff, I mean, we are replete with examples that citizens can grab and give this information. Now, we were writing op-eds. I think you worked with me on an op-ed. You wrote one in the Hill, and I referenced that. And so this circular reference of really fact pattern based material that's it's got citations and it's really full throated. And I think that really did it for the local commissioners here. And basically, what happened was they issued 2 resolutions that directed my governing body to purchase a hand-marked paper ballot solution. They basically say, we only want to fund a paper ballot solution, and our body rejected that resolution, and the commissioners defended themselves and rejected our proposal. We sent them a contract that was really had a lot of accounting errors in it, but we sent them a really bad purchase order, and they rejected it, and that's where we stand now.
Okay, so just back up a little bit, because that was pretty complicated. So what happened is you got all kinds of people in there who had information and got that to your election commissioners. However, the election commissioners still made a choice for ballot marking devices. Is that correct?
The information went to the funding body, who directed the election commission body to pursue hand-marked paper ballots.
Okay, and then what happened?
Then we rejected their advice.
And when you say we, you mean you're an election commissioner, and you're also working to a certain extent under the guidance of your administrator, Linda Phillips.
The funding body. No. The
okay, so
reports to me.
Clear it up for me, because I'm confused.
You have 2 different governing bodies
in Shelby County. This isn't the same everywhere.
You have the election commission, who is acting with funding from a different body. And the people who write the check for us to administer elections said, we're not going to give you money unless you do what we want you to do.
So in this case, you really, and you're lucky in a way, because the people writing the checks were Democrats who were listening to you and wanted hand-marked paper ballots.
Right. So
where has it ended up? So
the last thing that happened was my body, the election commission body, we had that advice or that resolution from the funding body, basically saying we don't want to pay for anything that isn't hand-marked paper ballots. We defied that, or didn't defy it. We didn't go with it. I was outvoted 4-1, and our body sent a $5 million package to the funding body, and they rejected it.
Okay, so your body, which was guided by Linda Phillips and these other commissioners who disagreed with you, they still, even though they got the directive from the funding body that they were supposed to get a hand-marked paper ballot system, they sent in a request for a touchscreen system, which was the ES&S Express vote. Okay, and now your funding body has rejected that?
Yep, they rejected it.
Okay, so so this is really, you have to really get in there. And I know this is kind of like a long, complicated story, but the message of this story is that you have to get in there and learn about your elections. You have to figure out who is writing the checks, who is the pressure point that you need to send letters to and send information to, and really make sure if your county is considering buying bad voting equipment, that you get in there and put a stop to it, because that is the #1 issue from the just bottom line, foundational. We cannot have transparent elections that we have confidence in if we are voting on bad equipment that cannot be audited.
Right.
And so, and the ballot marking devices have been determined by election and auditing experts that they really cannot be meaningfully audited. And that's why we're looking for hand-marked paper ballot systems that can be audited, because the first step is we have to have something to audit, something that the voter fills out themselves. And that in you know, the world as we know it right now, security experts like Benny and other academics and security experts are all really in unison saying hand-marked paper ballots plus ballot marking devices for voters with disabilities.
So I see a comment about clarifying the funding body. So for Shelby County, our large county has a 13-member board of county commissioners. Those commissioners, they are charged with administering funds through the county, the entire county. They work with the county mayor. They approve if we're going to build an arena, if we're going to have Amazon build a plant here. They are a large 13-member body. The election commission is carved out solely for election commissions, right? We are a 5-member body, but our funding is a budget line item in the 13-member body. So they fund the entire county, and we receive funds from that funding body. So when they decided we don't want your solution, they are the people who write the checks. So they are the people who rejected the money. I hope that clears it up for them.
I think that's good. And I think the point is your county may be different, but you've got to find out where is your pressure point, who is ultimately going to make this decision. And then we're going to talk about if you lose that battle, the next step is what we're doing in New York. We're writing legislation to try to ban hybrid voting machines. So I'm going to get to that in 1 second. So I also just want to put up a Zoom link for people who are interested in finding out more about HR1, which is what I put up the petition for. We're going to have a Zoom call, which I think is going to be very informational, this coming Friday morning at 10 a.m. And we have some people who have done a lot of research on, about HR1, who have been part of it throughout the different parts of the process. Someone from Common Cause, someone from one of the larger democracy groups on ethics, and also Jana Morgan from Declaration for American Democracy. And they're going to talk to us about HR1. We're going to be able to ask questions, maybe make suggestions about changes that we want, get ourselves informed about that, and really we're trying to build bridges between the election security community and the larger democracy community. There's lots of really big democracy groups that could benefit from some of the information that we have about election security. And also, if they really bring election security into their portfolio, then we can really make a lot more headway with the election security legislation that we're looking to pass. So it's very important for the election protection, election security community to start to work with these larger democracy groups. And that's what that Zoom call is about on Friday, to come and work. The coalition is called Declaration for American Democracy. And I want to just put up that website right now. It's a very impressive project. It has, I believe at this point, 170 groups as part of the coalition, and they meet on a regular basis. There's all kinds of activity that goes on there. So I'm going to just show you their website, and you can get a sense of kind of how ambitious it is. So this is their website. Benny and I are going to go away for a second. And this is the initiative I told you about, Democracy Day 1. And this is to try to really get the Biden administration to focus on democracy right from the get-go, and it has information about HR1. This is Jana Morgan, who's going to be on the call with us at 10 a.m. on Friday morning. And then here are some of the 170 plus organizations that are part of this coalition. So you can just see there's tremendous strength here in terms of really pushing for election reform right now. And this is really tremendously exciting. And we want to make sure that the election security community is part of that and really is able to build these bridges. Benny, thank you so much for just talking us through kind of what your story has been in all of the really amazing progress that you've made there in Shelby County. I just want to ask one more thing, and that's what, in your opinion, what are the best ways for Democrats and conservatives to work together right now on repairing our elections?
I've made some really great strides in the sense that I've always pursued it as a nonpartisan. Locally I'm a Democrat, but most of the work that I do is fiercely nonpartisan. And I think the thing the cautionary tale that I see now is to remember that it is a contest, and there will be a winner and a loser, and we owe it to the loser more than we owe it to the winner to understand how they lost. I think that's the piece for me. I want the people who are demanding evidence to have it, because when people lose that I care about and I vote for, I want the same evidence. So this is not there. I don't see how this can be political. I honestly don't have the capacity. I'm not smart enough to get. I get distracted. I guess I can't go past the fact that there was a winner and there's a loser. The loser wants to make sure that they lost. So that in that mindset, I can talk to anybody as long as we're talking about winners and losers. But what you see that I think kind of muddies the water is because people reach for things that have them feel why they can't know the result. And that's what you hear and to the reporter who was saying that it's sensationalized, because those things have been the way people consume information, and you think or blame social media for that. Nonetheless, technically, and we should talk about the process of elections and the technical. They say politics is a blood sport, right? If you watch MMA, these guys, they fight each other, they bloody each other up, and then they hug each other when they finish.
I think that's a really, really good point. And one of the things that I don't think that people are really understanding enough or really focusing on enough is that what an election is a kind of, it's a kind of facade. It's a mechanism for what is actually the raw transfer of power. Sheer power is moving from one hand to the other hand. And if the election isn't working and one hand does not believe the results of the election, that raw transfer of power is just going to come bubbling up to the surface, as we've seen. And we have really seen the huge chunks, like just holes in our system. This is not some sort of ladies and gentlemen parlor game where people are supposed to be polite and bow out. This is the raw transfer of power. And we need to make sure that it's happening in a transparent way that, as you said, Benny, really makes it clear who is the winner, who is the loser, and both sides can have confidence and agree on that, because, as you said, we need evidence. So I just want to push through here. We talked about the voting machines. The touchscreen voting machines cannot provide the evidence. So the first step, you've got to make sure in your county, what type of voting machines do you have? And I want to show the map here. This is the verified voting map that, and you can go to verifiedvoting.org. I'll just go ahead and put that into the, put a banner up. I'll put that into the chat, verifiedvoting.org. And they have a tool there that is very useful, which they call the verifier. And you go to tools and you go to the verifier. And it's going to give you a map. And the map has all kinds of selections that you can choose. It takes a little bit to load, but you're going to be able to go here and find out what type of voting equipment you actually have in your county. And so here's your map, and we're going to have a map on the countthevote.info website also, which has a map that Benny designed that has what vendor is in every county. But here you can see, like, I'm up in New York, and I can go up to New York and I can see there's hand-marked paper ballots, but I can click on that and I can really get the details if I want to know what type of equipment. You see here, if you scroll down, it tells me that it's an election systems and software, and it even tells me the model is DS200. So this is extremely useful. You can find out what type of equipment you have in your county, and you can do some research. We're going to have more, as I said, more research available at the Smart Elections website. Right now, what we have up is under Smart Elections. Go to voting equipment. And so step number one, the equipment. And then step number two after that is either audits or full hand counts in order for us to really have the kind of transparency that we need. And I'm sorry, Benny, you were going to make a point there.
Yeah, because there may be people who think that this logic that I'm processing, or this reasoning that I have, may be off base. But consider this: if I'm wrong, right? The ultimate casualty, if we don't pursue this route, is we are the losers. If a candidate runs and loses, he or she needs the ability to do a postmortem. They need to assess. They need to figure out which base of voters they lost, retool their message. The postmortem is how they retool and get better to offer a better product back to the voter. So they say banks compete, you win, right? But if the person who lost really didn't lose or doesn't know, he doesn't know what to correct. So we end up with a seriously defective product, because the winner is either winning because he's able to keep himself in power, or the loser who doesn't know what to correct, and he can never offer a better message. So I don't want anybody that doesn't want to see what I care about in order for me to elect them. So if we don't pursue this method, we are just going to keep being the losers in the process.
I think those are really, really good points. Yeah. So I want to also just talk about legislation. So now, what are your options if your county goes ahead and buys equipment that you're not interested in, which is what happened in Westchester County. They lost that battle. So here in New York, we're working on legislation, and we have this legislation up on our website. And I know I see everybody saying that the Zoom link is not working. So I'll tell you what I'll do. If you are on our mailing list, I will send out the Zoom links on the mailing list. I will send out an email tomorrow. Girl Scouts honor, I promise. I will send out an email with the Zoom link for Friday morning for HR1. And we're also having another Zoom call Friday at noon for New Yorkers who want to help us with this legislation. So here's the, I'm going to show you our website now. This is smartelections.us. And this is our New York legislation page. And here's something that we hope will spread to other states as well. So this is if you're on our website, smartelections.us, and you go to Take Action, New York legislation, you will see the bills that we're promoting here. And one of the first ones that we're talking about is ban the hybrid or all-in-one voting machines. Yeah. And this is legislation that we at Smart Elections worked to craft, and we worked with attorneys, and we also worked with legislators to get it introduced. The bill numbers are going to be different this year, but I want to just show you what this legislation looks like, because it's not that complicated, and anybody really can, anybody can do it. You can do it in your own state. So here's the, let me pull this up for you. Here's the actual language that we had attorneys working with election security experts like Andrew Appel craft. And just want to make sure I get the right page there. So I'll just read this for you. And what this says is the voting machine must be constructed so that after the paper ballot is cast by the voter, the voting machine or system never passes the cast ballot under a printer that can print votes onto the ballot, including as a result of unauthorized, malicious, or faulty software or firmware. So that's just pretty straightforward language there, basically, that says you can't pass, after you vote that ballot, you can't pass it under a printer. That one or two sentences there would prevent many of the bad voting machines across the country from being used. So we have that legislation up on our website, and we encourage you to start introducing that in your county or your state legislature. This is something that we all need to be working on. How are we now going to move forward to make sure that we don't have another situation like this in 2024? And I want to make sure we have a few minutes left to show some of the work that we've been doing with the Count the Vote project. So I'm going to say goodbye to Benny and show you guys some of our charts from Count the Vote, because it's really interesting. So
you can watch past forums, and it's in the link below. We've made a playlist where you can take your leisure time and look at all the forums we've had.
Absolutely. That's we hope that you can catch up. We put so much information into these forums, and we hope that people will be able to watch them. You know, if you missed any of them, you can go back and catch up. We're trying to make sure that people get up to speed. So Benny, I'm going to say thanks so much for being on the show. Great to have you here. So I want to show you some of the work that we've been doing at our Count the Vote, with our Count the Vote project. And we've come up with some really, really interesting results now. We've been working on this data for several weeks. And this is our hashtag, Count the Vote. And this is our website, countthevote.info. And I want to show you, what we did was we had volunteers take photographs of poll tapes. And for people who don't know what poll tapes are, you can go to countthevote.info and it'll tell you what they are. And they're basically a printout, looks like a cash register receipt that shows you what the results are on election night from that voting machine. And then we've been comparing them to election results. And we have been finding some discrepancies. And this is just a sneak peek. We haven't actually released any of this to the public yet. But here's, for example, the type of research that we're doing. So this is in Gwinnett County in Georgia. And this is a precinct called Pinckney. And what we found there is some very odd discrepancies. The votes don't match the poll tapes, and they don't match in a very odd way. So it's a little bit hard to see, but the results for, this is in the president's race. No, I'm sorry, this is Senate 1. Let me go to the president's race. Let me see if that showed you the president's race. Now, yeah, that's the presidency. Okay, so the votes for President Trump, as they were published, were 307. But when we looked at the poll tape, there were actually only 280 votes for Donald Trump. So let me see, I'm going to show you the actual poll tape, and you'll see that there's only 280 votes on the poll tape. And this is, so you see there, Donald Trump has 280 votes on that poll tape. But when you look at the published results, and then take a look also, Biden has 115 votes. So when you go and look at the published results, the published results are different. And what's especially odd about it is that Trump's votes go up and Biden's votes go down. So Trump's votes were on the poll tape, they were 280. They went up 27 votes to 307. But Biden's votes were 115, and they went down to 113. It's just very odd. You really never want to see candidates losing votes. When you have candidates losing votes, that's something to be alarmed about. And we are alarmed about this. And we also, in Gwinnett County, in the same county, in the Senate race, we had similar discrepancies. And I wanted, I'll show you those Senate discrepancies as well. It's similar where the Republicans' votes are going up and the Democrats' votes are going down. And we're going to call the county and try to find out what happened. This is just one example. We actually did find a number of discrepancies between the poll tapes and the results that we're looking at. So here in the Senate race, again, the Republicans' votes went up by 41, where the Democrat Ossoff, his votes went down 11 votes. And we don't know why. And we're going to call the county and find out. And we're going to be releasing more of these results that we're doing research on. This is a huge undertaking. We transcribed between 600 and 700 poll tapes from across the country, and we're now in the process of comparing them to the results to see if there are discrepancies, because that is an indication that something further needs to be done. And what I want to talk to you about now is helping us. And one of the ways that we really need your help is with finances, because this work has become much larger than we ever anticipated. We have a volunteer team of close to 200 people in our Slack channel now, and they're doing all kinds of analysis and they're helping in so many different ways, but we really need your support if we're going to continue this work. And we want to take what's been kind of a volunteer miracle, and we want to turn this into what could be the largest project to actually provide public oversight of election results that's ever been done in this country. And the way for us to do that is to get your support. So this is Giving Tuesday, and we've actually launched a campaign, and we're going to be putting out links and videos for it, but we launched it today with an email campaign, and we are trying to raise $60,000, which is what we really need to survive and flourish. If we're going to do this work in a meaningful way and keep bringing you this information so that you can know what's wrong with our elections and really specifically how to get in there and fix it, we really need your help and we need your support. And so I'm going to ask you to go to our website, smartelections.us, and to donate there. And it is tax deductible. You could become a tax deductible monthly subscriber if that's the most comfortable way for you. But we're going to ask you right now in this giving season to please give as much as you comfortably can. We really, really need your help if we're going to survive and really continue to do this work. So that's our message, is we're here because we care about the elections, and we know you care about the elections, and we want you to help us to make sure that things get better. You can also help us by really letting people know about our work. You are our PR machine. So we count on you to go to our YouTube channel, to subscribe to our YouTube channel, to follow us on Twitter, to like us on Facebook, to share our posts on Instagram, and we are even on TikTok. So the more that you can promote this work and tell your friends and tell your family, then the more that we can spend our time doing the research and really bringing the information to you. So I just want to wrap up by reminding you of a couple things. There's the 10 a.m. meeting on Friday about HR1. I'm going to be sending out the email blast about that because apparently the link to the Zoom didn't work in the chat. So get on our mailing list. You get on our mailing list by going to smartelections.us and filling in the, your information there. You can also send us an email if you want to make extra sure that you get that link. Probably the single most effective thing to do is to email us. And our email address is contact@smartelections.us. And just say, I want the Zoom link. On Friday at 10, we're doing a national Zoom. And at noon, we're doing a Zoom for New York elections if you want to help with that New York legislation that I told you about. So that would be Friday at noon for the New York call. And I'll just pop over to the banners and just to see if we had any other questions that we didn't get to. We just have like a couple more minutes. And oh, Robin wants us to zoom in a little, please. Robin, we are going to be putting all of those up on our website. So I just wanted to give you guys a sneak peek to let you know, like, we really have found some interesting things in the data, and we are going to be looking into those and following up with the counties and finding out what's happening. And one of the reasons why it's really interesting to do the work this way, so we found these really odd discrepancies in Gwinnett. If it turns out that there's really no explanation for that and we are concerned about it, the next step might be, say, in the Senate race that's coming up on January 5th in the runoff, maybe we'll request to do a hand count of the ballots there in that particular precinct, which was Pinckney M. So the work with the poll tapes can be work to help us zone in on problem areas and then do further research. And so these are all parts of the puzzle that go together. We have different tools and we're going to be using them. And that's, again, why we want your help, why we want you to volunteer. We also we have a sign up for volunteers, and we totally need your help with all kinds of different volunteer work. So you can help us out with data, you can help us out on social media, you can help us out by coordinating volunteers, you can help us out by doing internet research, or by just being somebody, you know, who comes in and goes like, hey, what can I do today? There's always different stuff that needs to be done. And some of it is really fascinating. So I encourage you to get involved. Thanks so much to everybody. Thank you to Benny for being here. He's so busy, and it's so nice of him to spend this time with us, kind of like really walking us through such important work that he's doing there in Shelby County. Really, really grateful for that. And I'm really grateful to all of you, everybody who's here, who's really cares about the elections and is helping this work go forward. Thank you so much for being with us. This is what democracy looks like. So thanks so much. And we will see you 2 weeks from now. Sign up 2 weeks from now. Go to smartelections.us and sign up for the next forum. It is on Tuesday, December 15th at 7 p.m. My mom's birthday, but she will be happy for me to be spending it with you. I'll be seeing her during the day. Okay, thanks so much, you guys. Have a good one.